Alright, I know I said I was gonna wait until after the bannings to play with the Council of Reeds again, but then someone else started working on a Council of Reeds deck that looks pretty good, so... Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and I'm going to use a Dealer's Choice donation deck list from Matthew today to play another Council of Reeds deck. So Matthew, thank you very much for your support, and Matthew actually donated for a handful of Dealer's Choice donation deck lists, so thanks. The support is very much appreciated right around the time that I pulled the trigger on going full-time content creator. So, in our previous video, it looked like the Council of Reeds had some very, very real legs as far as power level as a card. However, the current metagame is just really tough, with Dimir decks basically being better than everything else, as some selection of Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize, Tamiyo, Stock Up, Daze, Force of Will just ends up being so generically strong right now. And something I have repeatedly said over the last couple of weeks is that I think the Dark Ritual Fantasticar decks are way better than the non-Dark Ritual Fantasticar decks. So is the same logic just true for Council of Reeds, which is operating under very similar logic to the Fantasticar. This deck does not have City of Traders that our previous deck did, and City of Traders was something that was slightly awkward. So we need Dark Ritual plus a blue source to just play Council of Reeds and have it do its thing. Or 2 lands plus Lotus Petal to do it. Or Ancient Tomb plus one of these, or Ancient Tomb plus a land and then some other non-creature spell that we can cast. There's a handful of ways that we can kick off Council of Reeds. And we don't have the disappearing land this time around, which means that we can do the whole blue cantrip thing. But we're not doing it with the 1-drop slot. We're doing it with flow states and stock ups. And it feels kind of crazy to me that this deck does not have the 4th Thoughtseize, but I'm going to very, very specifically assume that that has something to do with not wanting to put another sorcery into the deck when very specifically you need a balance of instants and sorceries for flow state. I don't remember if I said this out loud, but this list comes from PunishingWaterfalls, who often comes up with some awesome brews. And Noxious Revival is kind of interesting. It is not a very good magic card, but it is a magic card that does a lot of things. So you can use this to put a bad card on top of your opponent's library as a emphasis on pseudo time walk. You can use this to help trigger your Fantasticar as the 4th spell. You can use this to go Ancient Tomb, Island, Council of Reeds, Noxious Revival something, and now all of a sudden Council of Reeds just goes without a piece of fast mana. And you can just use this to rebuy your flow states and stock ups. So overall, I like what is here quite a bit. Some days you just have to be the villain and play the Fantasticar for yourself. There's nothing too exciting in the sideboard. We have our government-issued pile of Barrowgoyfs, and that's great. And we do have a couple of fatal pushes, so if we want to play something resembling a fairer tempo game, we do have the ability to do so. I'm going to try to keep the deck techs a little snappier this week. I'm recording on a little bit of a time crunch as my dad is visiting and we're doing a whole bunch of home repair, house project, travel sort of things. So my normal 10-hour workday is going to be about a 3-hour workday for the next couple of days. So we're going to try to keep things snappy. Speaking of snappy, if you need some cards quick, please consider getting them from my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. And when you do, use promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. I just updated all of my commander decks with stuff from the Marvel set and a few things that had slipped through the cracks here and there. And I used my own promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on my order. With that being said, let's battle. Hello, Phil from the future here. I recommend round 3 of this video. It features a sweet Does Machines deck on the other side of the battlefield. So if you got time for one round, that's the one. Enjoy the show. This league is really sweet. All right, opening hand only has blue mana, so I don't think that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this one. The second one is pretty awkward too. I'm very far away from the Fantasticar. So I can Force of Will something. I might just go to 5 and try to shove Council of Reeds rather than keep a very awkward flow state hand here. Nope. At this point, I am going to keep. Thoughtseize is pretty awkward right now, and I think I'm going to get rid of an Ancient Tomb. So my conceptual game plan here, versus what I'm going to assume is something in the Maverick ballpark, is to Force of Will the first kind of scary card. I think that qualifies. And because I don't want to get wastelanded into oblivion here. And then play stock up to refuel. Council of Reeds, I'm going to take that, because that's probably the angle I want to take on this game, rather than trying to accumulate enough cards to Fantasticar. Okay, this is fine. Like, this is fully expected. And this is why I took out the Elvish Reclaimer, so that my opponent couldn't just tutor that up easily. And do I have one Surveil land, I'm going to assume? Yes, I have one. If you don't know my opponent is awesome. Dukes does a ton of, like, Maverick, Depths, fair, green-white magic stuff. More active on Twitch than YouTube. I think I'm just going to get Island. And I will stock up. So I would like to play Council of Reeds next turn. I think next turn I am going Lotus Petal, Thoughtseize, Council of Reeds. I think that's my angle. Alright, another Wasteland is annoying, but fine. It just means that I don't get to Thoughtseize prior to doing the Council of Reeds. Opponent is just hyper-aggressively messing with my graveyard under the assumption that I am a flow state deck, which I am, so that is a correct assumption. Okay, I get something else to protect the Council of Reeds, which is good. My life total is pretty low, though. Ow. Here is the Council. The issue is that if my opponent just has Swords to Plowshares, it is naturally going to get played around Daze, which is bad for me. And you can play the spell that you want prior to the Council of Reeds. It doesn't have to see you cast that spell. Verdant Catacombs comes down. So my opponent can whack me for 7 here. And this could get Trample. I think I'm just trying to double duplicate these next turn. Yep. Then take out one of my lands. And that is 7. We are going to fail at double duplicating these, unfortunately, so I'm not going to be able to quad block the Keen-Eyed Curator. So we just mulliganed to 5 and got hit by double Wasteland. That's okay. GG's. I probably want this stuff. Maybe want these. I think I don't need to be Force of Willing. I think I'm going to become slightly less reliant on my graveyard, and lowering my blue count is okay. This would just straight up give me 6. And now I have 3 different things that I can shove via Dark Ritual instead of just 2. I don't know that I need Echoing Truth. I could Thoughtseize. Like, I could swap Force of Will and Thoughtseize as well. But I think Thoughtseize checking for Swords to Plowshares on a turn before I go off often is going to make sense. Yep. This is a keep, and I just have to figure out what exactly I am doing with it. So, Dark Ritual, Fantasticar, Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox does the thing, but would be bad against Force of Vigor. Maybe I don't care? Maybe I don't care. Fetch Underground Sea, Dark Ritual, Fantasticar, Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox here, and okay, yep. Now, there is something interesting here. I do Chrome Mox last so that I know whether or not the Fantasticar ability has resolved before I choose whether or not I am actually imprinting a card under here. And now we can decide whether or not I want to make any adjustments for being on the draw. I'm not sure that I do. Like, I certainly can. Like, I could take out the Noxious Revival and turn that into 1 copy of Force of Will or something. Alright. Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, 3 mana. Dark Ritual, 5 mana. Thoughtseize you, play Barrowgoyf. It's not bad. I kind of wish that I just had more mana, though. Presumably, my opponent fetches, so land, artifact, instant, sorcery, maybe creature from Thoughtseize are already going to be in graveyard. The Barrowgoyf is going to be chonky as hell. It might just solo, but would just lose out to something like Deafening Silence. Whatever. Opponent mulliganing very aggressively here, and does ultimately keep on 5, and passes the turn. Oh, buddy. So now, 3 mana, 5 mana, 6 mana. If I choose not to Thoughtseize, I can just shove Barrowgoyf and Council of Reeds immediately. That seems hard to beat. Thoughtseize also pretty good. Dark Ritual, Barrowgoyf, Lotus Petal, and Council of Reeds. Alright, I have successfully made my copies of Council of Reeds. Barrowgoyf is a 3/4. And we'll see if my opponent can beat 3 creatures into play on turn 1 on their mulligan to 5. And presumably, my opponent is mulliganing for things that beat the Fantasticar, right? Opponent says Tabernacle. Sadly, no. All right, there is a Thalia. Thalia walls the Council of Reeds for a little while, and does make my life more awkward. Yeah? Barrowgoyf hits. I do not hit a creature. Thalia very specifically is going to keep me from immediately generating more copies of Council of Reeds. So that is quite good. This is certainly losable. Collector Oof is not more than a minor nuisance here. Yeah, like very clear hand aimed at the Fantasticar, right? In we go with Barrowgoyf. Oh, opponent thinking about the double block and then opting not to. Barrowgoyf will mill some more. Barrowgoyf is up to a 4/5. So this double block line is not live anymore. Dryad Arbor comes to town. Another land drop comes down. Am I fine taking out 3 permanents for Barrowgoyf? There also just could be Endurance, which would be a nuisance. This will just die to first strike. If my opponent does have Endurance, I think I can't attack into it. And I'm upset about it. Yavimaya comes in. The good part here is that my opponent can't attack as well. That's almost good. I think I assume that I draw a mana source and then everything is fine for me. Okay, there is a Once Upon a Time. Now I can attack in with the Barrowgoyf. There's a Knight of the Reliquary. So now this is my Barrowgoyf attack in turn. Send on in. Opponent's going to go ahead and block. That's fine. So then I will go Swamp. I unfortunately can't Thoughtseize that Knight out of hand, but I can get myself a blue source for future turns. Oh, fuck. For Council of Reeds, I should have done this pre-combat. Oh, and it's not a blue source. Yep, I just played that turn terribly. Yep, I could have 2 more 2/2s. Collector Oof was just so irrelevant in my mind. Alright, so there's the Knight. 7/7 Chonker. I missed my good window on Thoughtseize. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And we'll see whether or not there is an Endurance there. Nope, there wasn't. I played around it. Could have pressed the game much harder than I did. Council of Reeds will do their thing. I will send in with Barrowgoyf. Alright. Thalia is going away, which will mean Daze is live. Now, because I missed 2 Council of Reeds earlier, that actually means that I have now missed 4 copies of Council of Reeds. All right, we have gotten the GGs from my opponent. So I think I played that game very, very badly, but it didn't matter. My opponent mulliganed to 5, presumably looking for Force of Vigor for Fantasticar, and then I just did not open up on Fantasticar. It is very, very rough to be the fair Swords to Plowshares deck right now. And I know the last couple of B&R updates have talked about how Swords to Plowshares decks are doing fine. They're not doing fine, folks. They're really not doing fine. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I love them. I have over 1,000 deck lists here. And I think the thing that I like the most about them is they're more than just a basic deck builder. If you need information about your next pre-release or where you can get cards, they have that sort of stuff here too. Whether you need to manage your collection or just a couple of decks, Moxfield does it all. So go check them out. So my opening hand here will Surveil on turn 1 and play Council of Reeds on turn 2. I think that's fine with 2 copies of Flow State here. As much as I want to just do the thing on turn 1, I don't think we get to do that every time. Also, I just don't care if something gets countered or I get thought seized or whatever, because I just have 2 copies of Flow State to refuel. The first one may or may not get 2 cards. We'll have to see. Delta pass turn. Wooded Foothills into a Bauble. DRC Tempo deck? Volcanic Island, yeah. Or Sewer Combo. That is an Emery. Trigger. Okay, yep, confirmed. So let's Surveil at end of turn. I would not mind a piece of interaction here. A Lotus Petal, does that do anything neat? I can go from 4 mana up to 5 mana. 5 mana lets me cast the first Flow State? Sure. Alright, opponent's just going to look and see what I kept, which is reasonable. So, land drop, Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, fetch, Underground Sea, Flow State first. I guess grabbing a Flow State. And then I will deploy the Council of Reeds, and then on future turns, I will just be using Flow State to probably dig for counter magic. Because these will spiral the game on their own. As cool as Murktide Regent is, I don't think I need to play it at this point. No Metalcraft for Mox Opal right now either, so my opponent doesn't have all that much mana. That can change quickly. Alright, opponent was in the tank about something. Is now fetching with Bloodstained Mire. They are playing a Goblin Welder. I hate that that is in play now, because that's the sort of thing that I would like to counter, because it is nonsense. Then that Bauble comes from Graveyard. Opponent now has Metalcraft. Yeah, so I have missed my window to keep the cam from getting into Graveyard. So presumably my opponent is going to win the game next turn. Let's see if I can do anything about that. I don't know that Noxious Revival is going to be good enough. My opponent has 2 different things in play. I'm taking it, and then I'll just take a blue card that pitches to Force of Will. I don't know, maybe I take Dark Ritual. If I draw the Fantasticar, Dark Ritual, Fantasticar, from Mox, imprint something, Flow State. Okay, yeah. So make 2 more copies of Council of Reeds, and then I will crash in for 4. I think my opponent likely wins the game, though. So Bauble comes down on their turn. That's another Goblin Engineer. And they have 2 different things that they can use to swap here, which is frustrating. So there is the Extruder. Okay, this is bad. So that resolves. Okay, that's not quite how I thought that was going to go. Now my opponent doesn't have mana. I thought this was going to come into... Yeah, never mind. All right, so I need to break this here. So I will put that Legion Extruder on top of Library. Now my opponent doesn't have the red mana available to just stop that from happening. They can cast a Mox Opal, and we'll see if they can still win from here. So they can use a mana to Goblin Engineer, sack a Sewer Cam to put a new Sewer Cam into play. Okay, no, the Mox Opal line did not happen. All right, so when do I cast Flow State? Probably now. This is spell 1. I want Flow State to find land plus car, I think. So use underground for C for blue, 2 flow state. Yeah, you can crack baubles, that's fine. So that is car, but I needed the land. I've done 2 spells now. Unfortunate. Okay. Let's see if my opponent just concedes 2 Fantasticar going on this deck. Nope. My opponent did indeed concede the game to Fantasticar, despite the fact that I believe they were fully locked for a win. Okay. Alright. Play to your outs, I guess. I am unsure how exactly I want to approach this matchup. Fantasticar just gets my opponent dead, which is great, but there's some awkwardness with Goblin Welder, where if I have a Lotus Petal in graveyard and my opponent has active Goblin Welder, the Fantasticar just could be welded out in response to its trigger, and I would be sad. So it's possible I should do things like this, but my opponent has a decent number of creatures. This is largely kind of sweet, but a bit of a non-bow with the Fantasticar. I assume that I need some amount of this stuff. I don't know how effective Thoughtseize is actually going to be at being Disruption. Thoughtseize is amazing, but my opponent kind of wants stuff in the graveyard. And the Welder can already come down on turn 1. It's like Engineer is the big one this does. I don't know that I need Murktides. Then I'm thinking about Barrowgoyf versus Fantasticar. My creature count is very low for hitting with Barrowgoyf. Barrowgoyf self-scales well. I don't know. This is one of those things where by the time this league is over, I will have a better feel for how I should be sideboarding, but in match 2 here, I just don't. This does stone cold nothing. All the mana in the world, nothing to do with it. This similarly is a very bad looking hand. My opponent is going to 5 as well. I will go to 5 then. Okay. This is 3 of 4 things for the Fantasticar, assuming that I find black mana. One way or another, I am keeping this hand. The primary question is, am I keeping to do flow state things, or am I keeping to do Fantasticar things immediately? Maybe I hedge and do a middling line. That way I can use flow state to dig for black mana to cast Dark Ritual Fantasticar. It's also possible that I just play the Fantasticar outright on turn 2. Bauble comes down, and then intend on building up a little bit over time. There is a Welder. Here's Force of Will, which I don't mind. Sewer Valence Cam. Boy, that's awkward. Yep, I mean, I think that's resolving. My opponent has 0 cards in hand, so they have Welder Cam, but they don't really have a win condition right now. So hopefully I could just counter a win condition. Yuck. So that can draw my opponent their whole deck. So my Force of Will doesn't save me anymore. Needed this to counter the Welder. So opponent welds out Sewer Valence Cam, which can untap Goblin Welder. I'm just going to always yield to that. I'm going to always yield to Welders. And then I'm going to always yield to Chromatic Star. So my opponent can now kind of repeat this process, and basically my win condition is them messing up. Which normally I would concede here, but my opponent conceded with the win on board last time. So, you know, I will give you relevant updates at this point. Alright, I've defeated a Team Rocket Grunt. My opponent puts Goblin Engineer on the stack, which is a tutor for something I don't want them to have. So that will just give them the win. And a Flusterstorm. Absolutely. I will pay 1 to prevent that. Not the next time, though. You can have the next one. So at this point, there is now a twin-shot sniper in the graveyard, which can be looped out with the Sewer Cam to just deal the 20 damage needed to kill me. Alright, opponent showed me a Lightning Bolt at the end for some reason, which is super relevant information for me playing a Council of Reeds deck. GG's, my opponent is now also potentially at a clock level where if we have a decently long game, they won't be able to execute that combo again. On that note, maybe I should work on just being a little bit more disruptive this game to ensure that they don't combo off in the first turn cycle or so. Noxious Revival can probably go if I'm bringing those. I don't know. This is kind of a hate card, right? To knock the combo. The Thoughtseize and Force of Wills just send cards to the wrong zone. Graveyard is a resource pool for my opponent. I might go down some stock ups. Blue count is still okay if I do that. Yeah, I'll buy that. So this hand doesn't look good. I can Fatal Push an opening creature, but then I have 3/3 drops that aren't particularly good. I'll mulligan this one. Alright. Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, Imprint, Sink into Stupor, Council of Reeds, have Surgical, and a Daze that isn't live immediately. Kind of awkward. Do I keep the Daze that is not live immediately, or the Underground Sea? Let's keep access to both of my colors. This is not really how I want my games to start, but this way I can cast a Thoughtseize if I draw one from Mux, because I want to be able to play all of the non-creature spells I have on the next turn so that I can continue triggering Council of Reeds, because putting 4 power into play on turn 1 is just not going to be good enough. Bobble. Lotus Petal. There is Welder. Alright. Well, if this was Daze, I could hardcast it out 2 mana. So I guess I am just crashing in for 4. Alright. And I will presumably just surgically extract the sewer cams when I get the first opportunity to. Only dealing 2 here. Yep. 18. Opponent will draw another card. Volcanic Island, Mox Opal, Twin Shot Sniper seems good. Actually pretty frustrating, because my opponent can use the other one to clear this one, and then I won't have a threat on board after I extract, unless they get lazy and go at my face. They got lazy and went at my face. Beautiful. No Metalcraft right now as well for something like Flusterstorm. Get out of there. Anything else neat in here that I need to be aware of? Not really. Losing to Urza Saga Beatdown is now potentially the thing that I'm most scared of. This could just end up grinding me into the dust, though, if I miss on Council of Reeds stuff. There's only instant in here right now. So yeah. Fantasticar. Are we doing Bear Fantasticar Beatdown? Sure seems like it, because I don't want the lands. So there's Fantasticar. I make another Council of Reeds here. Oh my god, my opponent didn't weld out Twin Shot Sniper for a bobble. They really want to be grinding through these, I think. There's Emre. If I win this one, it is not a testament to the power of my deck. If my opponent welds out Twin Shot Sniper at end of turn, just for a bobble, and then welds Twin Shot Sniper back in here, they get rid of one of my Council of Reeds and makes it harder for me to spiral this game outside of the point where Twin Shot Snipers can control my board. That was a very big error. And they're not... Okay. Alright, and they're not trying to force damage either. This is going great for me. I miss on something that gives me 4 damage and more copies of Councils of Reed, unfortunately. So I have to pass the turn here. And this is where, like, drawing another flow state could just break the game open so easily. Yep. Yeah, they're not trying to force damage through with this 2/3, which I don't really have great blocks on. Like, I just... Okay, they've started to figure it out. What did they just do? Oh, I see. There was a second bobble. Alright, Mox Opal, sure. So they get their redraw. They get another redraw. There's a Lightning Bolt on a Council of Reeds, which I think I am just going to Daze to trigger the other Council of Reeds and turn the Fantasticar into a creature. Let's just bounce this. Say yes to the Fantasticar. Lose 1 Council of Reeds, but it will replace itself, so that's fine. And I can save this Chrome Mox for next turn. We go to combat, do this. Send in for 6 at my opponent, bringing them to 11. They are cycling their bobble. That has taken them off of Metalcraft in the short term. They get a couple bobble redraws here. Fetchland comes down. Lotus Petal. Engineer is reasonable. That can get Skateboard or Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Given how my opponent is playing, feels like they'll grab Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Yep. Notably, this does have double strike. They're going to cast Twin Shot Sniper. Okay, they targeted Twin Shot Sniper. They weld in Phyrexian Dragon Engine. That will draw them 3 cards. I think they already played a land drop this turn, though. So an Urza Saga can't come down, which is one of the potential scarier things. So they targeted Twin Shot Sniper and then are not casting it. All right. So now, I think I just cast one of these to hit my opponent 4/4 and double trigger Council of Reeds. Don't imprint. So trigger, in for 4. Opponent to 6. 2 Fantasticar hits does it. And I can potentially just go wide with the Council of Reeds as well. You may tap down one of my things. That is fine. Yep. Skateboard goes on a Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Opponent fetches to 5. Targets a Twin Shot Sniper, which they cast, getting rid of a copy of Council of Reeds. So now, do I get rid of 1 copy of Council of Reeds to not take 6, probably? It seems like the Fantasticar is the win condition right now. And I'll just need to draw 1 more non-creature spell to get lethal. Opponent's got a great engine going, but they kind of dirtled around and I think went AFK multiple times in game 1. Another Welder. Yeah, seems sweet. I will play another Chrome Mox. Say yes here. Say no here. Go to combat, make 2 more Council of Reeds. In with the Fantasticar, put my opponent to 1. Now, my opponent has some awesome lines available to them that involve setting up Skateboard in their graveyard to tap down my Fantasticar. And they have the onboard tools to do that. Will they see that line with 1 minute and 30 seconds on clock? I don't know that they will. Do I take 6 this time? I'm considering taking 6 this time, but like there's multiple Twin Shot Snipers to the face that I have to like worry about. And like, what if my opponent can double Twin Shot Sniper and the 2 cards in their hand are both Lightning Bolts? Like there is that sort of stuff to worry about. All right, so there's Twin Shot Sniper, taking out a copy of Council of Reeds. That's 5 mana to unearth the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Amory has targeted a Lotus Petal. Sure. White mana. I think tapping this mana potentially kills my opponent. Oh, they have an Abrade for the Fantasticar directly. Sure. That seems good. And they now lose their Phyrexian Dragon Engine permanently. Do I Thoughtseize my opponent? It seems like 2 life is more valuable than anything else here. So here's Dark Ritual, and I'll just do that to trigger Council of Reeds. Go up to 4 of those, and my win condition is now timeout. There is a Ratchet Bomb. Opponent just simply does not have the time to close out this game, and my opponent concedes. All right, that's not really a win that feels good. My opponent had every ability to win that game in different ways. They cannot go AFK in game 1. They hemorrhaged multiple minutes of clock in game 1. They cannot be lazy about their kill in game 3 if they take the time to go and kill my Council of Reeds instead of sending 2 damage directly at face. They almost certainly just easily win this game. I didn't count, but because my opponent left that 1 Council of Reeds alive, I imagine that I made somewhere on the order of 16 more Council of Reeds from that. What on earth has happened here? The game has restarted, and my opponent has disconnected. Okay. I'm not going to sit here for 7 minutes and let my opponent time out. I'm 2-0. GG. On to the next one. All right. My previous round did end up being reported as a win, which is cool. My opening hand is setting up for a slower stock up game here. Yeah, I think that's still true. But after we stock up, we might just win. Fantasticar mirror time. Although my opponent's version is spicy with does machines. So if I take the Fantasticar, I let my opponent get it back later. That's kind of neat. Might just be taking Force of Will and pave the way to do my own broken thing at some point before my opponent does their broken thing. Chalice on 1 can resolve, right? Oh, all my things are in the wrong place. That's very few cards. I don't know that that matters, so I'm going to let it resolve. I am very close to just off 3 lands, cast Fantasticar, cast Chrome Mox, double Force of Will it. I think I'm just going to play Delta and pass turn and Surveil. Oh shit, did I have it there? Hold on. Chrome Mox, Imprint, Sink into Stupor. That is spell 1. Fantasticar is spell 2. No, I was a card short. Thoughtcast resolves. Fetch. Surveil. Alright, Chrome Mox. Chrome Mox, Imprint, Sink in... Well, I can actually just probably play Sink into Stupor. Sink into Stupor, Fantasticar. Chrome Mox, Force of Will, Chrome Mox. That's fine. Yeah. You can take a peek. So you redraw. I do Sink into Stupor. Fantasticar is spell number 1. Chrome Mox is spell number 2. Now I need to hold I'm not imprinting anything here. Now I need to hold priority. Chrome Mox is spell number 3. I will Force of Will Chrome Mox and do the Fantasticar thing. Yeah, we can use the Fantasticar's ability. We'll use it twice. In for 16. Opponent needs to Fantasticar me back. Healthy play patterns. Because any past the turn line is probably not beating this. So they did not Fantasticar me back. And they did have the Fantasticar and 7 cards in hand. Pod Racing. GG's. So now, how deep am I going on being the interactive deck? So my opponent's got does machines, which means that they can Fantasticar multiple times. I can Energy Flux their deck, which I think I am into doing. I'm going to assume that this goes out. Am I Barrowgoyfing? I'm not sure how much I want free wins here. Because I think I can do this and play Dimir control for this game. Like, go down some Dark Rituals, go down a Council of Reeds, be slower at closing out games, but be relatively consistent. Maybe I don't want to get rid of my graveyard. Maybe Council of Reeds is just fine. I'm land light, so I would be more inclined to keep a land heavy hand here, or a hand with an Ancient Tomb. Beautiful. In. Artifact land. Lotus Petal. Alright, you chalice me. Acceptable. And then Bauble comes down and cycles. So do I need Consign Up this turn? Because if the answer is no, I just play Barrowgoyf here. Yeah. I think I'm into just shoving Barrowgoyf on turn 1. It will be huge. The next turn I have 3 mana. I need 2 mana to hold up Consign through Chalice. Maybe I will just imprint the Consign. I have good things in my hand to tap out for. And I like putting. Ooh, sure. I mean, that brings my opponent down to very few cards, which I am overall okay with. Like, I will stock up to refuel. That's pretty good against me when I am opting for a slower strategy, though. Get an island, because we don't have all that many things in my deck. I'm gonna take Flow State Daze. That way I have a better chance of putting an instant into the graveyard next turn for Flow State purposes. I guess I'll... No, I have Council of Reeds. I don't put that into play. So Saga goes up. And this failed. I've drawn Sink into Stupor. I just accept the first Flow State being medium. All right, there's a Goyf. So Lotus Petal, take 3. There's a 5/6 Goyf. And then hopefully I get to daze something in the next turn cycle, and this Flow State represents 2 cards. Robot. And Mox Opal. I'm not going to daze just for the sake of dazing, I don't think. Alright, opponent holds back, which is reasonable. I suppose we are staring at each other for a minute. I can cast Flow State right now. Think I'll just cast it another turn down the line instead. I can almost certainly cast one of these on my opponent's turn, and then get 2 cards out of Flow State. I'm not getting good daze value, but I might just daze so that my opponent can't get 2 baubles or 2 artifacts back this turn, and just accept that daze is losing its value at this stage of the game. Alright, you can have that trigger. Another Urza Saga coming down is not great. I will probably consign the ability to make artifact tokens with it next turn. An opponent is chilling. That's mighty interesting. I need 2 mana for consign. I think I'm just going to commit to this, though. So Thoughtseize is not good, so I'll take the other 2. Pass turn here. This trigger happens replicated once. So original copy will be countered by Chalice, and then consign copy actually stops that. Artifact land makes these 8/8s. They are very big. I will have to now block if my opponent attacks. That's going to be 2 more 0 drops that make them even bigger. I can chonk through a portion of an Urza Saga. Oh no, we are just staring at each other still. My Kingdom for Echoing Truth then. Negative. Skateboard tapping this down is really annoying. I imagine I can't play stock up here, and I have to just do this instead. This is where Council of Reeds would be sweet, to just make a stream of blockers. Although I don't know that I have the mana to just do it right now. Yeah, okay. I was expecting that. So tap down 1 of these. The hope is that I survive through the other ones. The Fantasticar. Presumably I need to counter that. Yeah. And Does Machines is already at its middle level. Lotus Petal. And Bauble. And more other Bauble. Yep. Are we staring at each other still? No. So I will block the 13. Take 12. This middle mode, or sorry, this final mode of Does Machines here could end up being relevant. This can just make another creature. Now, my opponent has enough mana for this, so this is just 15 incoming, and I can go to 14. There's already a sorcery in the graveyard, so I can't grow it that way. I think I am falling behind, and I'm going to take a swing for the fences and try to hit a creature with Barrowgoyf. My odds are not great here. I'm looking at 6. Nice. So that gives me a chump blocker, and I will play it out. And now my opponent's got some math to do in terms of, like, are they sacrificing baubles for other cards? Are they trying to wait me out with this? I imagine that you sack both baubles here if you're not just going to have immediate lethal. But I don't know how many different, like, bounce spells that could get the Council out of Reeds. The Council of Reeds out of play while still presenting lethal. Like, I don't know the exact nuance of my opponent's deck here. Okay. So that can just get back the Fantasticar. And potentially just lethal me the following turn. Fantasticar and another Does Machines discarded. The opponent wanted more mana. That is the Fantasticar. Oh no. Does my opponent just get to return Bauble now and 16 me? Fuck. That's bad. Yeah, that second Bauble represents Fantasticar, 16 damage. Barrowgoyfs were not good enough. The Urza Saga tokens just got big. Council of Reeds jumps in front. GG. Yeah, I needed an Echoing Truth or an Energy Flux or something like that there. Alright, so when I am on the play, do I just want to try to Fantasticar my opponent, rather than do this whole Barrowgoyf Dimir control thing? Conceptually, it seems like you should not play Fantasticar and Energy Flux at the same time, conceptually. I think I am happy with this configuration where the Dark Rituals are in the sideboard. This is no black mana, so I think I'm going to no-sir this hand. I don't want to play Magic like this. I'm keeping it, but I really think I need a finisher here. I think my opponent has a decent end game, and I don't have any of my stock up flow state type stuff. I don't think on 6 I toss this back or anything, but this doesn't feel great. Last turn. Okay. I mean, I cover that well enough. No? I think no. Should maybe have played Lotus Petal there, though. I'm going to replicate this twice. Yeah, I think I should have played Lotus Petal out. I am thinking about Council of Reeds here, specifically in holding the Lotus Petal. I don't know, maybe I should also just let my opponent fuel mana into this. I'm hoping that my opponent does not just 16 me here, because I did not play Lotus Petal. Yeah, that'll do. I am going to eat 16 damage because I did not play Lotus Petal. I have Echoing Truth to answer that, but like I have an Ancient Tomb as a land in play. That was a pretty big punt on my end. Like I figured it out very quickly, but I should have just done it. Or alternatively, just let my opponent funnel mana into this twice and then Echoing Truth. All right, bam. Now my Thoughtseize is also dead. So I junk all of these things, and then I think I'm dead to Skateboard. All right, that just did not work out well. So if my opponent has Force of Will or Consign on Fantasticar, and I eat that there, then maybe I resolve Echoing Truth here, in which case I've still taken 16 and I'm still dead to Skateboard? Ugh. I don't know that it mattered that I messed that up. All right, GG's. We're 2-1. All right, my hand doesn't do anything. I had a second land, like we could talk about trying to play a flow state game, but I just don't. 3 mana, 5 mana. First spell. Oh, this is awkward, isn't it? I can't use the Thoughtseize for turn 1 Force of Will checking, because the Fantasticar needs to see the 4th spell, and I need both Dark Rituals cast prior to the Fantasticar to play my 4th spell. That's awkward. I mean, I'm going to keep it. I don't think you say no to sending 16 damage on turn 1. Oh, it's just F6'd. Great. Fantasticar, Thoughtseize you. Yes. Opponent should have conceded there, I think. They don't have anything crazy. None of these tutor or anything. I'm muting my opponent. Don't be rude to your opponents. Be a reasonable fucking human being. Take 16. You don't get a good game. Alright, we are playing against lands. I, in theory, would like to just combo kill my opponent, but we could be running into Force of Vigors and Bosejus and Sphere of Resistances, especially on the draw. Tabernacle is going to be exceptionally good against my deck. I think on the draw, I'm just going to assume that this doesn't work. This becomes way less important. I potentially want some number of stuff to answer my opponent's tokens. I could go for something like Surgical for Life from the Loam or Wasteland as well. I think I'm going to go down 1 stock up, play 2 Echoing Truth. I think I'm primarily hoping to just win with a Council of Reeds, going wide of things like Maze of Ith. Sure. It's a little weird. I have 2 different things that make me want to pitch blue cards. I think I will keep the fair stock up hand. Opponent finds Dark Depths. That's a Wasteland. Don't love to see that. Makes this Ancient Tomb awkward. Might not even play it this turn then. So I can Chrome Mox, imprint the Murktide, I guess, that we're pretty far away from. Go Swamp, Lotus Petal, stock up. That's a fine set of tools. Let's go Barrowgoyf, stock up. I don't think I need to respect Sphere of Resistance on Lotus Petal specifically here. I'll hold that in case I draw a read. All right, so opponent does have Dark Depths, Thespian Stage in hand. So I can get Barrowgoyf into play. I might just want to cast stock up and start looking for an answer to that 2020. I don't have that many of them. Sink into Stupor. That's one of them. So do I just take... I think I'd take Dark Ritual, so that I can go Dark Ritual, Barrowgoyf, and I will now put Lotus Petal in play in case there is a Sphere thing. I have a Force of Will pitching a Daze. That resolves. My opponent has named the Fantasticar. Now, normally, opponent, I wouldn't dunk on you too hard for that choice. But you opened the game by directly insulting me. And I kind of hope that you step on a Lego. So, great job with your Fantasticar name. Yavimaya hits play. And you're a second main phase hipster too? No. Sure. Resolves. I still have enough onboard mana to cast Sink into Stupor if I need to. You would like to Force of Vigor my things. That I don't love. That is good enough for my Force of Will. Combat. In for 4, which notably puts me to 21. Very big deal. I will return a Murktide Regent, which I think I can just play. So blue. I can take out this land. I can take out 1 artifact. Sorcery. Actually, I think I can get better Murktide value than that. There's instant over here, so I can take both of my instants, leave 1 sorcery, and then just pay 1 here. Now I'm clocking in for 11-ish next turn. And I know that my opponent has Dark Depths. So the way this is going to go is they are going to Sinkhole themselves twice. I'm going to cast 1 spell, and then we're going to be done here. And I can Thoughtseize to just see if there's some absolute nonsense I'm not thinking of. Great. That's worth going to 19 for. Damping Sphere, sure. In we go. You do your thing. I do my thing. I yeet Aang from existence. Opponent goes to 5. I am above 20. And no hit for Barrowgoyf. This long pause is presumably my opponent insulting me again. And they don't know that I have muted them. Not a good game of Magic. Let's see if we can find a better opponent next round. All right. Does this Fantasticar on turn 1? Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, Imprint Thoughtseize, Dark Ritual. I'm not quite there. I'm real close. Because I can cast 4 spells, right? So Chrome Mox, Imprint, Thoughtseize, Dark Ritual, put Fantasticar in play. Force of Will, Fantasticar, but then the I think I keep this. I think this has a ton of potential. It has an emergency break versus my opponent doing something broken immediately. This is potentially Eldrazi aggro. Or it's a flex slot of a bigger deck that is doing something with like Planar Nexus. Chrome Mox occurs. Oh, Moon Stompy. I suspect that I care about Chalice on 1 enough to counter that, given that I have a Dark Ritual in my hand and a Thoughtseize. I'm real close. I think it's Ancient Tomb pass. Miracle? Bonfire of the Damned for 1? Hexing Squelcher has resolved. Big mana is the answer. This is kind of leaving me in the same spot, right? So I can Chrome Mox, Imprint, Thoughtseize, Dark Ritual, Fantasticar, that's 3. Force of Will could be the 4th, but I need everything else to resolve. So I'm just chilling. This is not quite worked out, and now these 2 cards are dead because of Hexing Squelcher. I did have the potential to just mulligan this hand. I will take 2 here, bringing me to 17. You have a bag of bricks? Oh, you do have a bag of bricks. Very nice. All right, that'll do. Is there a way where I get to Thoughtseize? Chrome Mox, Imprint Days, cast Fantasticar. Yes, there is. Okay. Chrome Mox, Imprint Days, Fantasticar, Lotus Petal. They know. Chrome Mox, Fantasticar, Lotus Petal, Thoughtseize. Sacrifice the Fantasticar. Last card is a Fury. If my opponent draws Broadside, how much damage do they have? 6 plus 5, 11. Not lethal. In for a gajillion. How does my opponent cast their spells? Just, like, legitimate question. These are 3 different colorless lands, and presumably there's Planar Nexus in here as well. And enough red cards to support Fury? What does my opponent need to do? Peel the One Ring? Which they can't cast. Oh no, they can take 2 from Ancient Tomb. They're waiting to pay costs on something. Shatter Skull Smashing. You don't have red for that. GG's. I'm kind of into Barrowgoyf. I need some amount of this stuff. The counterspells are just made weird by Hexing Squelcher, and I don't know that I should board Fatal Push. I do have 5 basic lands, which is kind of wild. I think Noxious Revival is going to go... I don't know how big my opponent's deck is. Like, are we going up to Ugin? Are we stopping at, like, 4 for Barrowgoyf-sized things? That really changes my evaluation of cards. My 1-drops are way worse because of Chalice for this next game. I guess the same is true for Days. I don't know. I want these. It's a little hard for me to get Revolt for Fatal Push for Magus of the Moon. I think I'm going to do some trimming rather than all-out cuts. We're real close again. This is not going to do it for me. I will mulligan this. Okay. Land. Chromox, imprint a thing. Chromox, imprint more other thing. I think this is a keep. I think I have the most flexibility if I pitch Dark Ritual. In case I need to Force of Will on turn 1. I don't really want to. I might need to. I don't need to counter a Chalice of the Void. Ooh, tapped land. Very nice. Fuck yeah. That's rather good for me. Now, Ancient Tomb, Chromox, Imprint, Sink into Stupor, and then I get a Council of Reeds that makes a friend this turn, makes a friend next turn, and is protected by Force of Will. I am overall very, very happy with this. Ancient Tomb comes down, resolves. I don't care about that. I just need to cast it. That one I care about. I don't care that much, but I think I care enough to do this. Because I want to duplicate these again, because my opponent's deck does have things like Fury that are relevant. So this just gets countered. But then I double up on friends, send in for 4, opponent at 14, and now any flow state style card is just very, very strong. Don't do it. Don't play the One Ring. Oh yeah, that can resolve. You have played a Trinisphere when I have 8 power on board, and you are behind on board. That's great for me. I haven't started doing Shadow Spear math yet, but I imagine I'm okay. In for 8. Opponent to 4. Fury is now noticeably worse at dealing with my Council of Reeds. Bonfire of the Damned! Hot diggity dog. That is a 4-1 with the Council of Reeds. GG's. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Let's get that Murktide region on screen here. This was totally solid. This was a very good Council of Reeds deck. Noxious Revival did stuff and was a relevant hate card versus the Sewer Cam deck, I suppose. I don't know that that's better than some other instant that exists. I really liked the Barrowgoyfs that were in the sideboard. Part of me wants to move those to the main deck. I don't know that that's correct, because I like the idea of, showing your opponent, hey, I am a Fantasticar Combo deck in game 1, and then they board out spot removal in some cases, and then you bring in a playset of Barrowgoyfs. Like, it is probably correct to build it like this, but boy, I brought in those Barrowgoyfs in most rounds, and maybe that is just going to be the case. There's definitely some tension between wanting the free artifacts that trigger Reed and the Fantasticar, well, the Fantasticar in particular, and trying to get instants and sorceries into the graveyard for flow state. I think stock up was better than flow state in this league. That is maybe not to say that you don't want both still, but Ancient Tomb stock up was often easier than setting up flow state. Days actually wasn't incredible, because you're often shoving off of Ancient Tomb for Council of Reeds or Fantasticar immediately. I think there's definitely some finessing that can be done here. I believe Punishing Waterfalls also 4-1 with this deck. So, the core of what is here is strong. is this better than just playing, you know, a straight Dimir Fantasticar build or some other generically good Dimir pile that has the 4 Thoughtseize and Tamiyo in it? I don't know. But this is an impressive Magic the Gathering card. And if you don't respect it, it will absolutely dominate games. A good example of that was the Sewer Cam matchup, where our opponent, in thinking they had lethal, did not take the 1 extra click cycle to take out the onboard Council of Reeds that ended up making roughly 16 copies of itself afterwards. So, like, I think I am confident enough to say, like, this is a legacy power level card that is not embarrassing to play. I really liked our opponent who was playing the does machines with the Fantasticar. That was obnoxious. Positive connotation. That seemed very good. I am generally of the opinion that the Dark Ritual Fantasticar decks are better than the non-Dark Ritual Fantasticar decks. But does machines is an angle that really lets the fair blue artifact decks play a good Fantasticar game, because your opponent can counter the Fantasticar. You can use does machines to pick it up and 1 bobble, or if you already have the Fantasticar, you can go like play Fantasticar, play bobble, level up does machines, replay that bobble and 1 other one that's already in your graveyard or a Lotus Petal or whatever, and you're just good to go. You're zooming. So big thumbs up to that deck design there. All right, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I've got a bunch of home improvement. I've got a bunch of home improvement things that I'm going to be doing with my dad over the next couple of days. So normally I'd be getting into the editing and whatnot immediately. Instead, I'm going to go tackle some plumbing. All right. See ya.